going to talk about our front suspension systems right now. What you see here I have on my right is what's on your C3 now. It's the old system that came on the car originally. It's the old coil with a pocket and lower control arm. These are still available for VBP if you want to keep your car stock. If you choose to sport your car out a little bit, we have this new transfer sleeve system. We manufacture this here at VBP, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. These lower control arms are made out of box tubing. They're all MIG welded. They're tested for strength. They come with brand new ball joints and they're coated to your color, your choice. It also comes with this transfer sleeve composite spring. And I'm going to let Chris talk a little bit about this spring since he's got it on his '69 Stingray and he's got a lot of experience with this. Chris?
Thank you, Paul. This particular system has a lot of advantages and benefits over your stock system. First of all, it allows you to set both ride firmness and ride height. It has adjustment points located on the front of the bracket where you can move the bolt in or out. It only takes a couple of minutes, doesn't require an alignment shop. If you want the car to ride very firm, you move this to the outboard side, the adjustment screw right here. If you want the car to ride smoother, you can move it closer to the inside to get more ride. I get a lot of questions, Paul, from folks that ask me what kind of front spring should I run, what rate should I run, what type of front spring, because as we know, ride height is very important. That's the overall look of the car. That's the beauty of this system. It doesn't matter if you had a small block in the car and you went to a big block, aluminum heads, cast iron heads, you can go back and reset the ride height by simply adjusting the adjuster bolts on the end. And so you can go from high to low and you can go from soft to firm. It's a great piece, it's heavy duty. This rides right underneath the cross member of the car. I've had it on my car for many, many miles. Very happy with it. It's a good performance piece.
Very good. Don't forget at VBP you can request different spring rates depending on your ride, what you're looking for, whether you're a racer or a Sunday driver. We can pretty much match any rates that you like for these springs. So a recap for you, this is what originally came on the car. You can go back to this original C3 application if you like. We offer it here at VBP, or you can have the state-of-the-art front suspension system and turn it into a Sunday racer if you like.
The separate control arm that's on here is a direct replacement for your stock system. However, as you can see, it's much more sturdy, it's more durable looking, it's built tubular steel. Also, it has the offset cross shaft on it, which allows for more adjustability for your caster and camber adjustments. It's good, again, for a stock replacement or for more performance-oriented driving. One really nice thing about the entire system, including the lower control arm, there's no drilling or grinding or slotting required to install this on the car. So once you've removed your stock system, it's just a matter of bolting everything back on, including the dual mount spring system on the front, the TVL, the transverse spring. Basically what you want to do is follow the same procedure you would if you were installing the stock suspension, only you wouldn't be putting back that coil spring. The part's going to slide on just like a stock piece. It's going to attach on your upper bolts. Your lower control arm is going to go back into place. It's going to bolt onto the stock location just like it was a factory part. The big advantage and difference to this is you don't have that dangerous, heavy, difficult coil spring to worry about trying to compress or place back into your suspension. If a lot of guys out there try to put their suspension together before they've put the engine in or before the body's back on the frame, and it doesn't weigh very much, and they have a hard time fighting and trying to get the spring to compress, you don't have any of those concerns setting up with this transverse system on these aftermarket arms. Now, compared to a stock front end or stock change out, it's not only more simple, but it's safer because you're not battling with that coil spring. And also the difference too is you're transferring the motion, the weight, and the action that goes into the frame from the coil spring from up in the coil spring pocket down lower to the cross member. So it actually puts less stress on the rest of the frame, less twisting, less movement that would normally occur with a stock system. And again, you're doing it without drilling any holes, you're not welding anything, you're not grinding anything. And in fact, the lower control arm, the transverse sleeve can be installed without any special tools or without any other additional assistance necessary.
So is this a job I could do on my own, or do I need any assistance from someone else?
You could certainly do it on your own. In this example right here, we're looking at a stock upper and lower control arm. If we were going to service these components, remove them from the vehicle, a couple of things that should be considered. First of all, you have a coil spring in here that's under pressure, and you have a couple of specialty type tools or parts that need to be considered. Once you jack the vehicle up, you can place a jack underneath this portion of the vehicle and remove your shock.
First, you're going to want to take 1/2 inch on a ratchet, come underneath the car. You get your 2 bolts out of the bottom of the shock here. So we're going to take a pair of vice grips and a 9/16 wrench to the top. And then remove the nut. And this is a slow process, but it's kind of the only way you can get it without cutting it.
And if it damages the threads, not a big deal because we'll be replacing these shocks.
You got that.
There it is, along with the 3/8 bolt. Now the sway bar is held in both sides on the sway bar links and then on the frame and the main points, but it's attached to the control arm by the sway bar link.
Correct, and that's usually 2 9/16, a wrench and a ratchet. You can do it either way, on top or on the bottom, whichever you prefer. This particular car has a 1/2 inch nut on top with a 9/16 bolt through the center. Typically these sway bar links are always jammed up. They're the most common thing and they take a good beating.
So if that bolt's jammed up and won't come off, would it be okay to cut it off?
Of course, these are cheap and you can pick them up at any parts store, or if you'd like to purchase the VBP polyurethane ones, they seem to last quite a bit longer.
So at this point, there's nothing holding this spring and control arm assembly together except for the ball joints.
Correct. So at this point, we'll have to go ahead and slide our jack underneath the control arm and get ready to pop our hub assembly, actually our spindle assembly, apart from the lower ball joint and the upper ball joint, which is going to release the tension on the spring.
Okay. Okay, Danny, so what we did, we brought this jack up here, jacked up the control arm to where there was pressure on it. Basically, it almost started to lift the car at this point, and that's taken the pressure off of the ball joints, right?
Correct, Chris. So now we're ready to go ahead, and after we've already popped our car keys out with our wire cutters, take a 3/4 inch wrench. Since you got this spindle loose, go ahead and pull it around to the front. Take our 3/4 in here. Just pop that ball joint loose real quick.
You have a pair of ball joints that hold your upper spindle into the suspension. Those have these these Carter keys in them that you would need to remove. What you can do is loosen these nuts down to the last couple of threads. Once they're loosened down the last couple of threads, with a jack underneath here supporting your suspension, you can take a pickle fork and you can pop these joints, and when you do, they'll pop loose. Down to where you have your nut, you can put your pressure back up on your jack, loosen the nuts the rest of the way out, very carefully lift this upper arm up, and drop the spindle directly off of the suspension assembly. So now everything is basically loose and the jack is holding everything in place.
Correct.
Okay.
And we let the jack down slowly. You'll be able to release the tension on the spring. It should pop right out.
So the top is loose now, and the bottom's loose, and there's your spindle. Okay, Danny, so now we're going to actually lower the jack and allow that spring to slowly decompress.
That's right, Chris. Slower is always better with this. You never want to hurry.
All right, looks like it's free. Okay, we've decided to go with the 1 1/8 sway bar and went ahead and assembled that prior to this next segment. That's just a matter of 4 bolts into the frame holding the sway bar in place until the rest of it's ready to be assembled. Now, Danny, what do we have to do to get the rest of these control arms out and prepare to put these tubular control arms in?
Well, Chris, on top there's only 2 bolts holding the A-frame control arm shaft in place on the A-frame tower. And what you want to do is also take your shims out exactly as they come out, set them on your car right there, front shims and back shims. That way when you reassemble with your new arm on there, you're already pretty close to your factory settings when you get ready to go set your front end. That takes care of the upper pretty much. On the lower, on the back there's going to be a 7/8 nut and you need a 13/16 wrench. Get underneath and hold the wrench on top, as I'll demonstrate from underneath the car here in just a moment. In the front you'll need a 5/8 socket and a wrench. And we'll go ahead and pull those off.
Okay. Okay.